Hey guys, Bran here with the 5th video in the Buddha's Eightfold Path, exploring this wonderful teaching of the Buddha. So I'll be referring to my little notes that I have. This shouldn't be too long of a video. So the fifth step on the Eightfold Path is right livelihood. This can kind of be seen as an extension of right action because it's kind of an active thing, one of the active steps. But the Buddha realized how prominent and important our preoccupations, our jobs were to us. We spend most of our waking life at work, and we need to support ourselves somehow. And the Buddha realized this, and so he gave right livelihood its own step on the Eightfold Path. So, livelihood is obviously our job, what we do to make money to support our lives. So what does the Buddha have to say? In the Samyutta Nikaya, he says that right livelihood, what is right livelihood? There's the case where a disciple of the noble ones or the enlightened ones, having abandoned a dishonest livelihood, keeps his life going with right livelihood. This is called right livelihood. So, abandoning dishonest livelihood. What exactly is dishonest livelihood? Well, in the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha says, a lay follower should not engage in 5 types of business. Which 5? Business in weapons. Weapons kill people. They're only made to harm people. Or sentient beings. 2, business in human beings, so trafficking, slavery, prostitution. The 3rd, business in meat, butchery, etc., is only killing sentient beings. 4 is business in intoxicants. Intoxicants only cloud judgment, leads to unskillful actions. And 5, business in poison. Obviously, poison kills people. So those 5 dishonest, businesses or livelihoods, unskillful business, unskillful livelihoods, whatever you want to call it, are to be abandoned, to be avoided. And I think the Buddha uses so many negative things, in right action. You have the 5 precepts to avoid, things to avoid. And I think it's easier to tell, to say what's unskillful rather than what's skillful, because we can act in many, many ways skillfully. But there are obvious things that are unskillful, such as these 5 types of business. So, we work retail, we work, in an office, whatever. And so it's kind of hard to see if what we do is unskillful or not. And Bhantaji, in his book, offers 3 questions we can ask ourselves to help us understand if what we are doing with our lives is skillful or not. The first question that he says we can ask ourselves is the job inherently wrong? Does it, by definition, create harm? These 5 types of business obviously falls under that. The second question is, does the job lead to breaking the 5 precepts? The 5 precepts obviously are what the Buddha, gave for right action. How to act, skillfully is not to break these 5 precepts in general. And so, if a job has you breaking the 5 precepts, it's unskillful. The 5 precepts being, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, and intoxication. The third question is, are there aspects of the job that disturb the mind or keep it from settling? The settling of the mind is very, very important in the practice of the Dharma. So if a job stirs up, craving or ill will or delusion or confusion, it's not looking too good. This really can correlate with right thought and right speech and action. If you go into work every day and you have, and your job makes you lose compassion, it fosters a grudge or ill will against an employee, against a coworker, a client, whatever, that only disturbs your mind. For example, right thought, loving kindness, compassion, and generosity. You need, you need to start cultivating that. And being angry at someone, being frustrated, harboring resentment against, a coworker, for example, obviously that's not working towards compassion or love and kindness. And instead, you could practice loving kindness. The metta. You can practice that at work if you have a very abrasive character that you work with. For example, I do too. Everyone, I think, has someone at work that they just hate. If every time you go to work and, work with loving kindness, may you be at peace, may you be healthy, may you, abide in equanimity, may you, have all, if you have all these good thoughts for this person, it really helps, even if it doesn't feel natural at first, it helps your mind develop this line of thought. This person's just another person, another suffering sentient being. Why do they deserve any more hate than, my best friend or something? And who knows? Maybe they're your next best friend. Just like Atticus is my best friend. So it takes practice. It's not easy, and that's why this Eightfold Path is all, is a practice. And we'll touch on the, it's not easy, it's practice in the next video, right? Effort.
I do want to note, to add this little very, very late note about right livelihood that the Buddha made in the Anguttara Nikaya. And this really, to me, this is kind of bringing in the middle way, kind of a balance of, according, with accordance to right livelihood. Now, the middle way, is a way of living, not an extreme. The Buddha was raised in a very luxurious household. He was a prince. He had everything he wanted. He never had to not want something. Like, if he wanted it, he had it. He abandoned that, knowing that that's not going to give rise to, to true happiness. He abandoned that for very austere, ascetic practices, self-mortification, starvation, and he realized that didn't work too. So he knew there's a balance between extreme, unpleasantness and, luxurious pleasantness. And he brings us into right livelihood when he says, a householder knowing his income and expenses leads a balanced life, neither extravagant nor miserly, knowing that thus his income will stand in excess of his expenses, but not his expenses in excess of his income. So really, it's like, don't spend more than you have. That's obviously not going to turn out very well. I just wanted to bring that in. To me, it's a balance of right livelihood, and especially of income and, being responsible with, what you're doing, what you're making. So I just wanted to add that. Yeah.
And you start to see how this is all connected. All these 8 steps are connected. You need right thought in order to practice right livelihood, because if you're cultivating these unskillful thoughts, your job's not gonna be skillful. It's not gonna help end your suffering. And you need right effort to practice all of these. And we'll see that in the next video. I hope this helped. I didn't have too much to say. I didn't have very many notes. This is a pretty self-explanatory one, I think. really ties back to right action. But we will discuss further on the interconnectedness of the Eightfold Path as we progress into these last 3 steps. Yeah, and thank you for watching. If you're still if you've been keeping up with these, thanks for watching. It's a tough subject to wrap your mind around, and I'm not sure if I do a well enough job to explain it, but I'm learning as we go. So I hope you're learning too. And if you have any insights you want to, that you want to say, please leave them in the comments. Maybe it would help me understand it a little more too. So thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next step in the Eightfold Path, right effort.